Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
And John, I'm going to bring up something that I talked about last week, which I explained to you, and I actually had a call on this yesterday. We had a listener call and complain that part of the Eric Erickson show disappeared yesterday, and once again, we are into what's called sun outage time, and this is this crazy time of the year. It was where we're at, where the sun, the satellite that we get the program off of, and our satellite dish all come in alignment, and it happens typically twice a year in October and March, usually I think mid-October and first couple days of March, and it's typically in the afternoon, so we lose the satellite signal for anywhere between about 3 and about 10 minutes. So that's what happened yesterday with Eric Erickson. And also the crazy thing is because we run the Mark Lee Van Camp and Robin show on time delay, and that show is fed at the exact same time that Eric Erickson is on the air. So we lost part of the Mark Lee Van Camp and Robin show yesterday afternoon as well, too. So,
I see. And for folks who want to know a little bit more about Red State, it's a good time to mention, Brad, that Susie Moore from Red State will be at the Franklin County Annual Lincoln Reagan Banquet, which is Friday, March 15th at the Washington Elks Lodge. You can hear their commercials here on the show, and you can go look them up on Facebook. That's the Franklin County Republican Central Committee. Susie Moore from Red State will be there. The date is Friday, March 15th.
And they're a good group of people, a lot of good Republicans in Franklin County. Sometimes people think that all the Republicans are in St. Charles County, but there's a lot of Republicans in Franklin County, a lot of Republicans down in Jefferson County. And by the way, speaking of that, I bragged to someone that I know that sort of follows the radio business sort of at arm's length and occasionally will call me from time to time and say, okay, explain this to me. And what's interesting about it is this person has recently come across the Egbert website. And the question was, explain Egbert to me.
And you said, how do we? And you said, I can't get you a meeting with them, but I can tell you a little bit about them.
Well, I sort of explained the marketing angle of that. But the interesting part of the situation was that the whole thing with the conservatives, and I explained it this way. I said, when you had the conservative radio wars erupt in the summer of, was that 2001,
I guess? It was 2021.
2021.
Yep. It was pre-Brad. It was before you were in my life.
Yeah, right. It was 2021. And the interesting thing was you had the spin-off of a group of people all came out of 97.1. Jamie Allman unfortunately got fired from 97.1 before this whole crazy thing happened. Then Tracy Ellis got upset with what was going on at 97.1, and then Jeff Allen got bounced at 97.1. So they all went off in 3 different directions and started new radio stations. And my point to this person was the perfect example of to essentially, I guess you could say, to sort of confuse the listener as to what station they're listening to. Tracy calls her station Real Talk, and the guys over at iHeart call it Real Talk the Patriot. So essentially, it's like, okay, so which radio station am I listening to? My point being is the reason that Egbert came about is that we could say, hey, we're Real Talk. We could say we're the ultimate patriot. It's like, for example, like when I put the sports station on, every sports station in the country was the Fan, the Ticket, the Score, the Touchdown. We were crap.
Yeah.
It was called sports crap, and people went, sports crap? What is that? And
it's first of all, it's definitely different. And by the way, let's toot our own horn here for a minute, Brad. I cannot stand another radio show that would have a guest call on, and I used one of my favorite elected officials. I'll use Jay Ashcroft. To have Jay Ashcroft come on and the host reads them the same 3 questions. And the host is clearly – I tweeted about this once famously and got a lot of conversations because people knew exactly who I was talking about. And the host is clearly just reading his email or trying to do some consultant work on the air or whatever. And Jay Ashcroft could say, hey, we've decided that at all the polling places, we're just going to use invisible ink. And then when the votes come in, we're going to change them as much as we want to. And then Republicans will win in a landslide. And the host would say, uh-huh.
Well, hold it. No, hold it.
What else is happening in the Secretary of State's office? Put a bullet in my temple. I do not want to hear another interview like that.
Is this theoretical, or did this really happen?
Well, no, Jay Ashcroft didn't actually say anything about invisible ink.
No, I mean, but are you saying that you listened to an interview
it's
where
a joke about that.
Are you saying you listened to an interview where you knew the questions had been given to the host?
Oh, no, I'm saying that I listened to there is at least one radio show where the host clearly doesn't listen to the guest. Like, we'll have a list of questions and say, and then also tell us what else is going on.
Okay, well,
and you know what I'm saying? And then the host is clearly not listening to what the guest says.
Do you know the rule here at this radio station, don't you?
What's that, Brad?
We name names. We don't say, there's this other radio station. We say who it is because we
we tend to. And you know what? And as we said, we're going to spend a lot less time going forward talking about people that, that might be a thorn in the saddle, and we're going to focus on the great audience that we do have.
Well, who is this radio station that's doing this that you just referred to?
Well, I don't listen to them anymore, Brad, so I don't even know if the guy's on.
Come on, tell me who it was. I want to know.
No.
You're not going to tell me?
Absolutely not.
Well, see, this is like my whole thing with Taylor Burks last week, okay? See, I like that guy from the very first. He called me, and he called me on the phone and says, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this guy's a normal guy. I like talking to him. We get him on the air. He's a normal guy, okay? He decides he doesn't want to run for CD3 anymore. I call him. I started, call him out of clear blue. He answers the phone. We talk. That to me is a guy I want in government because he's not reading talking points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Brad.
I mean, the interesting thing is Rush Limbaugh used to do this all the time, and the Travis and Clay, whatever they are, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton used to do this all the time as well, too. They put together montages, and typically, let's say something happens today, and you watch MSNBC and CNBC and all these other talking head shows, and they have the guests who are from, in this case, the Democratic arm of the government, because that's who's in charge right now as far as the president's concerned. And they edit together, let's say there's like 12 different interviews, and they edit together all 12 interviews, and the people say the exact same things.
Yeah.
because they've been given the talking points, and they're just out there spouting the company line or the corporate line, or in this case, the government line or the political party's line of, well, Jim, I'm glad you asked me that. That's because of the fact that, and like, for example, when the thing came out, when it just happened recently about the Hur decision where he came out and said, we're not going to prosecute the president because if we put him in front of a jury, the jury would feel sorry for him because he's a feeble old man, right? I mean, that's
a well-intentioned elderly man or something like that.
Right,
a well-meaning elderly man.
So the next day, the talking points were, well, I sit in a meeting every day with the president, and he's sharp, he's engaged, he's command of the room, and I heard that probably 20 times, and I'm going like, okay. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is the era of YouTube. This is the era of video. Stick a GoPro in that meeting with the president where it's behind closed doors and put that son of a gun up on YouTube and let's see how he is in these meetings. If you claim he's like, he's in control of the room and he's sharp with his faculties and he's sharp as a tack, I want to see that because we see.
Don't you think, Brad, that we've already had that captured by a Chinese balloon? Don't you think that the Chinese balloon hooked up to TikTok? Which, by the way, if you share your information with TikTok, have you seen some of these TikTok commercials, Brad?
Don't get me going. See, here's the interesting thing, okay? I don't want to say I'm the smartest guy in the world because I'm not. I'm probably, lucky enough to be, if you look at the continuum as smart and dumb, I'm closer to the dumb side than I'm the smart side, okay?
That's not true, but go ahead.
Well, but what's interesting about it is I used to do, before COVID things, I used to do a fair amount of public speaking. And one of my
this is a great story.
One of my gigs was I used to speak to, and the way the Logan College of actually it's Logan University now, Logan College of Chiropractic, I got hired by the two professors who ran this like it's like they do things like levels, and when this was like a level 10 course, and I think like level 11 you graduate. So essentially my deal was to come in there and give like a little quickie little seminar in marketing and stuff like that. And back in the day, I came in there one time, and some of the people were saying, well, what do you think is going to be the future of social media? And I said TikTok, and people laughed.
And they thought it was just a Kesha song.
Right. One funny part of it is one guy says, "Isn't that Kesha?" And I go, "No."
Are you serious?
I swear to God, that's what the guy said. It's funny you said that because he says, "Isn't that Kesha's song?" And I said, "No, it's this new social media thing. It's like in how it was originally described. It's vertical video, and a lot of people, there was once upon a time where I remember movie makers were talking about the fact that the new trend was going to be vertical video, and the idea being is you got your cell phone and most people hold it up with the up and down as opposed to left and right, if that makes any sense. They hold it vertically as opposed to horizontally, or if you want to be in the technical aspect, if they hold it portrait as opposed to landscape, okay? And that's what it is. It's a bunch of vertical videos, and essentially I said it's like Vine plus 53 seconds. And if
that's a great point, Brad.
And if you remember Vine, which was the spin-off from Twitter, it was vertical videos, but they were only 7 seconds long. And Twitter discontinued it. And I don't know why, but and people were in the classroom like, TikTok, what's that? I'm thinking to myself, do I know? Can I look into the future or what?
And you know what? Because you're also in touch with the fact that we have a rapidly declining over time attention span. And I pointed this out before, Brad. I was wrong about this because I thought that it would be Snapchat. I thought that Snapchat, a good old-fashioned American company, would do that short-form video, the short-form vertical video, and that Snapchat would dominate the market. Ended up being TikTok.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left in this segment. I want to devote this next 5 minutes to this Channel 4 controversy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I absolutely do. But recap it for folks that don't know.
This thing has just gotten out of control. On one of the newscasts, was this last week that this happened?
I think it happened a week ago.
Okay. The guy who is what's his name? He's like
Corey Stark.
He's the head good dude there, isn't he? Like the number one anchor.
I don't know if he's the head dude, but he's one of them for sure.
But he's like one of the featured anchors, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Good-looking white dude,
and
right?
a white guy.
Right, good-looking white dude. In one of the stories, and once again, this is, if you've ever watched Anchorman, this is like an Anchorman segment. There's a segment in Anchorman where they talk about the fact that Ron Burgundy will read anything on the teleprompter. He's just a machine. He's just reading words off the teleprompter, and it means nothing to him. So one time at the end of the show, they changed the teleprompter copy to, he says normally his sign off says, "Hey, I'm Ron Burgundy, and stay classy, San Diego." Isn't that his sign off line?
Yeah,
stay classy.
San Diego.
And instead of that in the teleprompter, there says, "I'm Ron Burgundy," and he says, "F you, San Diego." Isn't that how it went? Where he says, "F you, San Diego." He doesn't even realize what he read, and everyone around him like melting down, and he's like, "What did I say? Did I say something wrong?" Because
last Monday, the previous Monday, it was the 26th is when it happened. I have an article, I have a link to it yesterday on johncombest.com.
He's reading the copy, and he refers to a group of homeowners as colored people. Isn't that what he says? He's called.
Yeah, the direct quote is, "Tonight, colored homeowners are sounding the alarm when it comes to undervalued home appraisers." So, by the way, this is a social justice story, which to show that no good deed goes unpunished. It was a social justice story, but he used the word colored.
Right. Okay. Now, what I find the irony of this, there's two groups who are coming after him. They're coming after Channel 4. They want him immediately fired. They want the Kevin Steincross treatment to him.
Don't get me started on Kevin Steincross. What a shame that was. We should touch on that in the last minute before we go.
Right. They want this Corey Stark guy fired. Okay. Now, the interesting thing of it is there's two things about this is, and I heard this morning on another radio station. I'll tell you, I listen to 97.1, and there's a lady on there who used to work at Channel 4. Her name is Kim St. Ange, okay? And,
yeah, that's right.
And Mark Cox used to work at Channel 4 as well, too. He said that the procedure for the copy is, once again, Corey Stark did not write this copy. It was written by an associate producer or producer like that, and the executive producer, her job, in this case it was a woman, her job is to review all the copy before it's aired on the station, okay? Her job, once again, the executive producer's job is to review all the copy before it goes on air. Guess what race the executive producer is?
Is she black?
She's black. As a matter of fact, she's the leader. She's the local president of the International Associations of Black Journalists. I don't know what the
good grief.
Okay.
Now hold on, Brad. Didn't that group come out and make a statement?
No, they want her. They want him fired. Yeah, they want him fired as well too. But now the other group that wants him fired is the NAACP. Do you know what NAACP stands for?
Yeah, the word colored.
Yes, the
National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Exactly.
Now, Brad, hold on one second. The Post-Dispatch piece that I saw had NAACP President John Bowman said that he doesn't believe that Stark used the word with intent to offend. So I don't know. Maybe he has come out.
But
since
they still want him fired.
Yeah.
And the sad part of this is Corey Stark. This story has, and once again, we talk about things because of the fact that we think it's local news. This is all over the country. You can search this story. It shows up on the New York Post. It shows up local newspapers all over the country. It's terrible white guy in St. Louis referred to color. Now, here's the bizarre part. Let's go back to 1960, okay? In 1960, if I would have said and let's just, I'm just going to say, if I would have called someone black, I would have been in trouble because
absolutely. It was not the term of the day.
Right. They're not black. They're colored people.
Right.
Back then it was colored people. So then then it was to the point where when you called someone black, that was okay for a while. And then you said, no, they're not black. They're African Americans. Mm-hmm. And remember, this is one of the reasons why I like Elon Musk so much. He came out, I think it was last year, and he referred to himself as an African American, right? Because he was born in South Africa. So he's an African.
And there will be a day where BIPOC is no longer inclusive.
That's the whole
point. Or maybe
point.
Too inclusive.
You just exactly BIPOC, which is used all the time, stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, right? Yeah. Isn't that what BIPOC stands for?
Yeah, it is.
So when you call someone, I know it's not the current approved term, but it's something that's been used through the generations. And and once again, the crazy thing about it is that I don't understand why there's so big of furor over this. I mean, once again, it's to the point where, and the whole goofy thing is like, okay, so he didn't call them the N-word. He didn't call them a bunch of other terms he could have used. But first off, because he's reading the stupid teleprompter copy.
Yeah.
And once again,
the irony to me, the irony to me, of course, again, is that it was a social justice story. And by the way, Brad, before we sound the alarm too hard, I think there's a big divergence between what real people in the world think and feel and how they talk versus how these media elites talk. If you go somewhere in the St. Louis area, in an urban area or in a suburban area that's predominantly black, go up to Spanish Lake, Brad, get off at Bell Fountain and go to a barber shop. There's not a single black guy sitting in a barber chair that says, well, hey, listen, as a BIPOC, I feel. He says, hey, I'm a black guy.
Well, I can remember going to the Secretary of State's office in downtown St. Louis in the Wainwright building, and there was a poster up on the wall. There was a meeting specifically for people of color. And I thought to myself, man, if I work for the state, I'd be offended by that because of the fact that I'm not being included in that
You were
meeting.
excluded, yeah.
I'm being excluded.
I mean, to me, that seems like bullying, Brad.
Don't get me going. There's certain things nowadays. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to go there. Okay, we're up to take a break. Well, once again, it just doesn't make any sense.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?